Welcome back to another video. Today I have something a little different. I think of it as being a lot more fun because I want to do things that I kind of like doing. And so I thought I would do a kind of recommends video. Now, I get that this is not going to be for everyone, but I would hope that if you are a fan of the fantasy genre, that you would at least give some of these a chance. Now, these are all Japanese light novels, these are all fantasy related. And I think kind of what I like about them is that they tend to be a lot more lighthearted. So, a lot of these series are going to be a lot more lighthearted than perhaps some of the other readings that you might do. Certainly, it would be a lot more lighthearted than something like the Song of Fire and Ice series. So let's look at it that way. So first of our recommends would be this series here, which is Dragon Daddy Diaries. Now, I recommend this one mainly because it is actually finished. So this is a complete series of 4 books, and it is a very cute story. It essentially is, exactly what it looks like. You have a dragon that, finds a human girl and decides to raise her. And this is sort of him chronicling his adventure of, getting to know the human world through his daughter and through raising his human daughter. And so, it is, like I said, it's very lighthearted. And it's very lighthearted. It has an enemy and it has those kind of, usual traits that you would expect out of, an adventure story. So, the protagonist, antagonist, and you kind of like the hero's journey of coming out of your regular everyday and kind of exploring the world around you and being changed by that. It just is it's not heavy on the action. Very much be it would very much be a comedy. Like, it's definitely a comedy. And it certainly is a little more slice of life. So a lot of it is just kind of like the daily adventures that go on versus there's one huge overarching story of we need to go get X item. Like, that does come later in the series, but you know, it still is not as important as maybe the theme of the series, which of course would be more family. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I do recommend it because it is a fantasy, and I know that at least for me, I kind of feel like I want to explore as much storytelling that's out there as possible, and this, you know, a good story is still a good story. So yes, Dragon Daddy Diaries is probably first on my list of what I recommend. This is another series that I recommend. It's not finished yet because they're still translating it, but it is a very good story so far. If I remember correctly, I think there will be 12 books in total. Yeah, I think there'll be 12 books in total. I had to look it up through its original Japanese version, but yeah. It'll be 12 books. So, we're getting really into, toward the end of the story. So, yeah, that's at least it's at least why I'm willing to recommend it. So, as you can see, it is My Daughter Left the Nest and Returned an S rank adventurer, of which the author himself kind of already acknowledges that it's not a very good title. But, as with a lot of these light novels, the titles kind of tell you what the story is about. And so this is another one that is kind of a theme of family. And so you have the father, you have a father and daughter team. And the father, of course, found the daughter, raised the daughter. She went on, of course, to become an adventurer. And he is a former adventurer turned farmer. And so, essentially, the heart of the story is really about him kind of reclaiming his past and, trying to find the friends that he left behind. And so a lot of the story actually comes from his perspective. And of course, there is still the daughter's perspective because that is kind of how everything kind of meshes together toward the end of where I am in the series. So, you have the daughter who, is an adventurer and, she loves her dad and she's, excited about him finding, his past kind of thing. But at the same time, as what happens, it's a different face that she's seeing of her father. And so, it's kind of like, I guess it would be a little bit YA-ish just because of the sort of teen angst. But I do think that, this is a lot more action heavy, and it's like I really kind of like the themes that it tackles. So yeah, I would definitely put this as a recommended series to read. And it's much different, much more serious than the Dragon Daddy Diaries. So yeah, I think pretty much anybody could find this kind of interesting. So yeah, if you are interested, then I would definitely say maybe check it out. We're going to turn our attention now to things that I do kind of recommend, but I'm a little more hesitant to recommend these versus the S Rank Daughter and the Dragon Daddy Diaries. So this is of course campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skill. This is the only way to describe this as a fantasy is absurdist. It absolutely is. So you have, of course, the newcomer to another world. So this is what makes this series a little different from the other two that I mentioned before. So in this one, you have someone who, is from the version of our world that we're used to, who is pulled into a fantasy world. And, he has a skill that is really kind of unique. And like, I'm not going to give it away, but it is, it's kind of in the title, but I'm not going to give it away too much. And so, yeah, it is definitely funny and there are serious moments, but the part of why I'm hesitant to recommend this, of course, is really kind of the main character. So I will say what I don't like about the main character is that I'm not seeing a change in his character. It's a lot less of the kind of hero's journey story that we might be used to in, these kind of things. So, he's not, or at least as far as I've currently read, he's not settling into the idea of, this now being where he needs to be. It's still very much like he's very much still a coward. And I am multiple books into this series. So yeah, I like it because it's humorous. I like it because of the monsters that are involved. I like it, because of some of the side characters, but I would not I wouldn't have an argument if you decided not to read it. That's the kind of thing. So yeah, that is campfire cooking. This is another one that I have gotten a bit into. And so it's another one that I am a little more tentative in suggesting, even though I kind of like it. And that's like the reason that I would say, you know, it may not be for you is it is very much a slice of life. So in Dragon Daddy Diaries, you at least had a direct antagonist and you had a direct reason for things that needed to happen. By the Grace of the Gods is not that kind of series. It really kind of is, you have, someone who died in our world, reborn in a fantasy world, and he doesn't have any greater purpose. So he's just kind of relaxing. So it's kind of like the idea of the life he had in his regular life was so difficult that this would be sort of his healing process. So I would think of it as something like that. Like this would be this would be a much slower read. And so I kind of suggested for that reason alone that, it's the kind of thing that you can read during a stressful time and kind of feel a little bit more relaxed because there's not too much that happens. There's not a lot of action. It's just, a story about a boy and his love of slimes and, making his way in the world that he currently lives in. So yeah, there is that aspect of it. And so yeah, like I don't really have much else to say other than this one is like probably I'm more hesitant to suggest this one than the campfire cooking. But I do think that if you are someone that likes to just relax and you see reading as being just really relaxing and you don't necessarily care if not much happens, then I think that this would be a series that you could really enjoy. Last of what I would kind of recommend, and it's really more because this is a series that I'm currently reading. So as you can see, there's only 3 books so far. So it is a relatively new series in terms of being translated. I don't quite know where it is in its Japanese, it's in its original Japanese version, but in this English version, it is, 3 books. And this one is Reborn as a Vending Machine. Now I Wander the Dungeon. So yeah, for obvious reasons, I had to read this one just because of the subject material. So yeah, you have a guy who died in Japan and is reborn as a vending machine. And I recommend this just because of the uniqueness of his situation. And so I think just reading about the way that he is forced to approach things because he literally is a vending machine. He's like, he doesn't have a human body. The machine does not sprout legs, doesn't sprout arms. He can't physically move himself. So essentially, it is a story about him doing a lot of problem solving and, going on adventures. So essentially, I think if you would like to see a unique hero, so to speak, because I'll call him what he is basically the hero of the story. If you would like to see, a unique story about a non human, and technically, I mean, he's sentient, but he's not living. So, a hero that just is a vending machine, I think that this story would be a great read. You know, we're currently it's currently at the point where we are starting to see the introduction of the enemy. So I'm eager to see more of what's going to happen. But yeah, it's just begun, but I love it already. And I'm really kind of hoping that it kind of stays on this up and up because I mean, it's kind of like with many stories, you might get a strong start and then, if it's a series, like it might middle or peter out at the end. And, so that's kind of outside of the realm of this video. But yeah, that kind of is just it. I just wanted to talk about these things. And if you are interested in taking a look at them, you can go to Bookwalker. And so like you basically just do a Google search of Bookwalker, and it is their global store because they have two different stores. One, of course, is the Japan store, which has the original, like has all these stories in their original Japanese. The global store, of course, just does the translation or sells the translations. So yeah, I'm going to call this video it. Thank you for listening this long. Of course, if you like it, do all the things. If you are interested in exploring creativity, by all means, check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.